What's going on, YouTube? Got a 2004 Mini Cooper here. No stock condition. It is the S model. A little history on the car. Customer replaced the battery, I don't know, 6 months ago. I had put an alternator in it, I don't know, a couple months ago. It seized up on them. So these things are a big pain in the butt, but needs a starter now. You see, I already removed this starter. The reason I'm putting this video up here is because I actually looked. I've never done one of these before. I've done quite a few little jobs here and there on a bunch of different minis, but never had to change a starter. And as you can see here, I don't know if the camera will pick this up here, but there's a wire that goes from the motor here to the solenoid, or vice versa, from the solenoid to the motor. And it corroded away. I was able to get under the car. When I got it lifted up, I was able to confirm that. Just from the color of it, kind of get that rust almost sort of color. It's I don't know, if you saw it before, you'd recognize it. So the starter really technically probably isn't bad. But or it could be bad and this wire is getting overheated and that's why it corroded away, but I don't think so. More than likely, we're in New England here, Massachusetts, and this is very common. I noticed this in particularly Ford, the F-150s, the 250s, the 350s. From 96 or 7 and up, basically, they kind of do the same thing where that wire corrodes, and it's really, you probably could repair it. How good it would hold up, I'm not sure. And tell you the truth, this was a cheap starter. I believe my cost, a discounted cost for a mechanic, because I have an account, was somewhere around $85, $90. So, and it's pretty difficult to get to. The book calls for 2.5 hours labor, and it says to remove the exhaust manifold. That was another reason why I was kind of looking on YouTube for a video. Like I said, I'd never done one of these before, and it's telling me to take the exhaust manifold out. Now, this is an 04. It's 2014. The car's 10 years old. I am willing to bet that exhaust manifold's never been removed. It's not leaking. It's not cracked. The car does run. I did bump start it, and I got it running. That's how I drove it in the garage. And actually, that's how I got the customers here. I just came to their house, and I kind of knew pretty quick it was a starter. So I just bump started and it started right up. So they drove it here. What was I getting to? The exhaust manifold. It's telling me to take the exhaust manifold, and I read a couple of write-ups. People are saying take the exhaust manifold out. And there's this other guy. He said he took it out, and it was a pain. But what it really is there's a heat shield that I actually kind of bent and stuffed down there because it's kind of really hard to get out. I can unbend it, but you really can't give you a good look at all. But really, you don't have to take the exhaust manifold out. You can get both of the bolts out. One with a really long extension. Actually, I went all the way out literally through the rim. It was actually pretty straightforward shot to the starter. And I used this combination of extensions. Looks like it's, I don't know, an 18-inch and a couple of 10s maybe. And it was a 15 millimeter, both of the bolts for the starter. And I was able to actually, there's actually a fan under the power steering pump. It's electric on these cars. There was a fan under there. I pulled that out, and you were able to get to that 15, or at least you could see it, so you can guide that long extension across under the tire to get to it. Like I said, there was a floating heat shield here, which I removed. There was another heat shield which I have on the bench over there. That was over here somewhere. I'll put that back in later because I don't have the part yet. It's on order. But actually, to get the starter out, I had to move this coolant reservoir and this power steering reservoir. I didn't have to undo any hose or anything like that. Just unbolt it, pull it back, And then I was able to kind of wiggle the starter up and through. It was actually pretty easy. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but there was nobody with any video or any explanation or anything really. So I figured I might want to post this just to help anybody out, because this is probably kind of a common problem. I mean, honestly, I've never changed one, but it's a starter. It's a common problem in any car, really. So, but yeah, that's about. Let's see, anything other things about this? Yeah, everything was pretty straightforward. I think I used a 15, a 13, some extensions. I broke one ratchet. The bolt, you got to put a lot of stress on the ratchet because you use so many extensions. So that's kind of a, if you don't have a good ratchet, you're probably gonna break it. I had busted a really good, I think it's really good, a Harbor Freight ratchet that I've been using for a couple of years and I've had a problem. But I put a bar like that on there. And busted that ratchet internally, so they'll give me a new one. So yeah, I mean, you put a 2 foot, 3 foot bar on something, and for 3/8 drive, don't expect it to last. And I'm not really upset about it. I'll get a new ratchet. Just you gotta have more than one ratchet. So yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward job once you get the bolts cracked open. Once they're cracked open, you can get on them. They'll loosen up. It's just getting them because you're using that long extension. The other one, actually, that's what I wanted to mention. I used, I believe this setup. Actually, no, I just used a 15 millimeter, and I went in between. I would guess that's probably the number 4 and the number 3 exhaust header port. Like, I went right in between both of them, of the tubes there. And you can get on the 15. It was actually not bad. I used this. Now it's about a 10-inch ratchet or so. And there's not much room there, so I grabbed the end of, actually I used this bar right here. I put that on the head and I actually banged on it, and that's how I got it loose. And then once I got it loose, I was able to get the ratchet in there and turn it a little bit. And I was able to turn it by hand. It's actually pretty easy. But yeah, it's actually a pretty easy job. Calls for 2.5 hours. Says to remove the exhaust manifold. Nobody wants to take the exhaust manifold off if you don't have to. My guess is I would snap some bolts, and I'd be taking those out, taking time, and you know what? I'd be calling the customer, and I'd have to talk to them and say, hey, these bolts are snapping as I'm pulling out. It sucks to have to do that, but that's when I looked at it. I said, I think I can get that starter out of there. So I didn't even warn them ahead of time. I was pretty confident that there was a way to get that thing out of there without doing that manifold. And like I said, it did only take me 1 hour to remove it. It'll probably take me around the same amount of time to put it back in, and that lines right up with the book time, and they want you to take out the manifold. So you wrestle a little bit. I mean, after the bolts were out, I realized I had to move the coolant reservoir and the power steering, because that seemed like the easiest way. I think it was 4 bolts or maybe 3 bolts or something. So it was really easy to move out of the way. Really easy job, I would say, considering you have to take off the nose every time you look at this thing to do anything to it. So yeah. That probably conclude that video. I wish I had a little bit more live stuff for you, but I'm kind of just babbling on late at night here. So, alrighty, well, maybe I'll take a better video of installing it. Maybe that will give you hints on removing it. Thank you.